Are we ready on Mr. Paul?
Yes, Shannon.
All right, I'm recalling Mr. Paul's cases. I have, and I'm sorry, you gave me Mr. Rice, right?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Voted in the wrong place. Okay, I'm good. Let's go to Keith Paul. I have the following: SP 103-00531, SP 105-07911, SP 121-94501, U 452-59218, and case number 195-230-301. Mr. Paul, state your full name for the record, please. I can't hear you. You're gonna have to get closer to that microphone for me.
Keith Paul.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Paul.
Hi.
Mr. Paul, why are you in my courtroom this morning? You were supposed to have face-to-face with Ms. Robs. Why are you in my courtroom? You want Ms. Robs to tell me what's going on?
I was being disrespecting at Lake Ridge.
I can't hear you. We got a bad connection. Say that again.
I was being disrespectful at Lake Ridge.
I'm still having a hard time hearing what it's like he's blinking in and out.
What he
The reception
indicated.
is bad in the building today. If it's not me, then it's the reception in the building.
Right. He did indicate that he was disrespecting Lake Ridge, Your Honor. That's what he, is that correct, Mr. Paul? Is that what you
Yes.
said? You're
Yes.
disrespectful of the pastor?
And how did you disrespect Lake Ridge?
I don't know. I was just going through some things, missing my family, and I was just going through things.
And so, and you were disrespectful to whom at Lake Ridge?
The pastor.
Yeah, this is surprised me, Judge. Unfortunately, he did discuss was disrespectful to the pastor in front of other people. And that was, it's just not like Mr. Paul.
Mr. Paul, what's going on? That's not like you.
I know, Miss Holmes. I know I messed up. I apologize to the pastor, and I just messed up at the moment. I don't know. I don't know what was on my mind. I don't know why I talked to him like that. I didn't curse at him or nothing, but I was just like, not paying him no attention. Like a father, how he is to me, and he didn't like that. I called him, I apologized to him and everything. He said I could come back, but he wanted me to go to treatment for 30 days, get stuff he got.
But, and Judge, to fill in, because I want to help out in case this court missed anything of that.
He's
Some of it was garbled. He was disrespectful to the pastor in front of other people. He was put out of Lake Ridge. This morning, he knew that what he had to do was call up the pastor and apologize, and he did that. He got on the phone with the pastor. Pastor told him, was getting real with him, and I'm glad the pastor did, but I think the pastor did accept his apology. Certainly there, something that I agree with is, and I think Mr. Paul agrees with it and understands that he might not agree with it, or at least he doesn't like it to happen, but that he needs additional treatment. And that's something the pastor recommended. Certainly something I can get around, because this is so out of character to me, Judge. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I couldn't believe that aspect of it, that's out of anything. That was not something that I was that I was in my field of vision at all. So I'm certainly upset by Mr. Paul. I think he feels very bad about this situation, but he did it, and he owns up to it. And I told him to own up to it, and he does own up to it. I don't mean to shrift this or try to bring this to too quick a conclusion, but I certainly agree with the recommendation. I think we're all in agreement that the recommendation is that he be reassessed under the 800 number. Whatever other sanctions this court, I know that's not a sanction, so I'm not trying to use it as such, but the pastor is willing to talk to him, bring him back if that's a recommendation of the 1-800 number. And I'd certainly concur in that, Judge.
And Mr. Fikens, let me make sure I read a message correctly. He tested today at the court and he's positive.
Okay, I
Is
didn't.
that right?
That part I hadn't heard yet. I knew we were waiting results.
It's in a chat, Attorney Fikens.
Oh, well, see, I don't know technology very well. Yes. Well, that's consistent with what he did with Pastor Williams. It's just consistent that he had a, emotional outbreak, and consistent all the way through. And he just has to own up to that and accept the fact that he's tested positive for alcohol. And that's the part of which necessitates the extra treatment. And, I think to be otherwise, that if alcohol was absent, I was a little bit more concerned about that aspect of it, that it would be that kind of outrage delivered without alcohol was a little bit more bothersome to me, because that would be really out of character. So I don't mean to try to make a soap purse out of a sow's ear, as they say, but at least that helps explain it to me, that he was positive for alcohol.
Mr. Paul, why are you drinking? You know you're not supposed to be drinking.
I'm sorry, I messed up. I was just going through some things, and I messed up. I should have called and talked to Mr. Williams and the pastor before I even did anything. I wasn't thinking, I'm just,
Mr.
I'm
Paul,
hurt myself, I'm hurt myself.
Mr. Paul,
Yes,
we have equipped you with all kinds of resources for if you're having issues. All kinds of resources where you can pick up the phone. You have so many resources available to you other than picking up alcohol.
yes.
And you know that being disrespectful to any provider is not gonna fly with me. Now you know that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what do you think I should do?
I just need to go, I want to go to treatment.
Do you need to go back to treatment, Mr. Paul?
Yes,
Was this the first time you picked up alcohol since you've been there?
yes, ma'am.
Let me hear from Ms. Rives.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, I did get a call from Lake Ridge, just to kind of, just a brief summary of what I had received, Your Honor, from Lake Ridge. So on yesterday, I received a call from Mr. Williams with regard to Mr. Paul and him acting out at the facility. And that it had got to the point where pastor had to come in and intervene and, to redirect his behavior. But because of the drinking, Your Honor, Mr. Paul was not receptive to what was being said to him. So as a result, he ended up getting asked to leave from the facility. But again, Your Honor, this is something that, Mr. Paul, he has, as you indicated, Your Honor, as Attorney Fike has indicated, there's a plethora of resources. There's been referrals that need to happen that has not happened based on procrastination from Mr. Paul. I do believe, Your Honor, that if he goes back into treatment, that it will assist him in especially one specific area with the substance use, but also linking him with the cognitive things, Your Honor, that he does need to follow up, because there is a major medical issue that I would definitely want to discuss with you, Your Honor, and staffing, that he has to have addressed. I think when I had the conversation with Mr. Paul yesterday, he was very upset, Your Honor, visibly upset. And because of what happened, I asked Mr. Paul to do a Zoom so that I can see, his conditions and what was going on with him. He was, like I said, visibly upset, Your Honor. We were able to talk to Pastor Williams on today. As Attorney Fiken said, he did accept his apology. He did indicate, Your Honor, that he was not banning Mr. Paul, that he would be more than willing to take Mr. Paul back in the facility. But Mr. Paul had to follow up with treatment recommendations and by getting on the 1-800 line and being assessed so that he can start off, and get back honest with himself and as well as others. He did indicate, Your Honor, that his property was safe at Lake Ridge, that he would lock it up upon, discharge of inpatient for Mr. Paul. Your Honor, I do know this, Mr. Paul did express to me he was getting tired of being at the facility, but he also indicated that he understood being at the facility was one of the things that was keeping him in a structured environment and keeping him out of prison and off of that path. One thing Pastor did indicate is that over the time that Mr. Paul had got there, there was that comfortability of sobriety and that superiority complex that was being displayed within the treatment center. So this is more so being viewed, Your Honor, as a lapse in judgment, whereas not a relapse, but definitely a lapse in judgment. And my recommendation, Your Honor, is to go along with the recommendation of him going back on the 1-800 line, being reassessed so that he can get the linkage to the medical issues, as indicated, the cognitive things, as well as the substance use and the underlying issues, which we have addressed also when it comes to interpersonal relationships and boundaries. So I think that, Your Honor, at this time, if we could get him on the 1-800 line, we could start to address those things that he has been in denial about up until today. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Robbs. Check your chat for me.
Yes,
All
Your
right.
Honor.
So listen, I heard both you and Mr. Fikes talk about him needing treatment. What I am going to order is that he gets back on the 1-800 number so that a therapeutic adjustment can be made if it's deemed necessary. Also, because Jonathan Williams has been a part of the treatment team, he can also make some therapeutic assessments and recommendations. And so let's make sure that we do that. In addition, I am going to order that he has to cooperate and get moving with respect to referrals dealing with medical issues, as well as any cognitive issues. That has to be done. And I also know about the interpersonal relationships because we've talked a little bit about that. And so there is some work that you need to be doing, Mr. Paul, so that when stressors come or when life happens, I say this all the time, one of the benefits of waking up alive is that stuff may happen today. That's one of the benefits. The alternative is you don't wake up and then you're going to pretty much have a smooth day because you won't be here. And so that's why we align you with resources. And so that when you wake up and stuff happens, that you are able to handle those things or handle them better than you would have handled them if you had not been exposed to some resources that we've given you. That's the whole purpose, because nobody's perfect at handling stuff that happens, right? But we can get some tools under our belt to help us get better at it, that we don't jump off the ledge every time some stuff happens, right? And that's what I want to happen with you. But you've got to get up and get moving. So, Ms. Robbs, if there has been a delay with Mr. Paul in getting those referrals and taking care of business, I need to know it because I'm making this a part of my order. for the medical, for the cognitive, for the interpersonal relationships, and to get on that 1-800 number for a therapeutic reassessment. And that's where we'll be. Listen, Mr. Paul, I'm not interested in punishing you. I appreciate your honesty in telling me what happened, but now I need you to show me that you want to get back on track. The other thing is you're going to go back and not only just apologize to pastor, but wherever you showed out, that's where you're going to make your apology. So if you showed out in front of other folks at Lake Ridge, whether it was in the dining hall or in a class or whatever, you need to give that apology to Pastor Williams in that same setting. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not going to have it no other way. So Ms. Robs, I need you to follow up and make sure that that happened. You need to apologize because you keeping law and order with the kind of work that they do at Lake Ridge is so critical for those folks that are there. And so for some folks, it's life or death. And when they see one bad apple act out, and then now they're letting you come back, somebody might get the crazy idea that this is what you can do at Lake Ridge. And we don't want them to have that idea. So where you showed out at, where you had that bad day, you got to go back and make it right.
I will.
All right. You got to do it. You got to do it.
I will, Ms. Holmes.
It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. All right. You've got your marching orders. I'm not going to issue a sanction at this time because he was honest and because there are some things that he can work on. Mr. Reed, Mr. Fikens, any objection?
No, Your Honor,
No,
we thank you for
No
that.
objection.
All right. Ms. Robs, no objection. I'm not doing a sanction.
No objections, Your Honor.
All right. All right, Mr. Paul, we gonna regroup and get it together, okay?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
All right. I'm glad you were honest, though. Thank you for being honest. And I'm sorry that you're having a hard time, but let us help you deal with that hard time by using some of the tools that we've given you, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Very good. Very good. What would be Mr. Paul's next court date?
Your Honor, is it possible to do a face-to-face with Mr. Paul on May 16th, 2022 at 10:35 a.m. and a return to court date, Your Honor, of May 19th, 2022 at 8:35 a.m. for graduation?
All right. Yes, ma'am. That works perfectly.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. We are in great shape. And so thank you, Mr. Paul, and Ms. Robs, just circle back and let me know, maybe you can text or whatever. So just let me know that everything is good with him.
Yes, Your Honor.
I think that is it for the morning, and that is it for the specialty court. And then we'll be back at 1:30. I do want you all to know, thank you for being flexible. My flight was an hour behind. There were some storms that came in yesterday evening, and I guess they reset everybody's flights. And the airport was chaotic. We literally got on the plane as they were getting ready to shut the door on this morning. Yes. And that was with an hour delay because everybody else was delayed. So, but we had a wonderful time, and my granddaughter's dance team, Magic Touch, they placed first at the competition. Yes, they did. Detroit represented. Detroit did an exceptional